Namaste,
Hi.
Michaela.
Namaste. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I am wonderful. So happy to connect with you all over in India. I'm so excited and happy, grateful.
Yes, thank you. Thank
How
you
are
so
you?
much. And I am so happy that we are today live with this very pertinent topic of unfolding our true, authentic femininity and the challenging environment that we have within which we need to thrive, we need to flourish, we need to be, right? So I would like you to set up the preface so we can jump into it.
Yes. Well, thank you. First of all, I want to say I came to you as my mantra teacher as I took one of your courses online, and I just wanted to stay connected with you because I really resonated with your offering and with your knowledge and experience. And um, following you on social media for a long time now, I resonate with every part of your offerings, not only the mantra, which I love, but also these wholeness of you that you share, your medicine of whether it's your personal experience, whether it's movement, whether it's chanting. And for me to see these posts from from something you were sharing on YouTube,
Yes.
from this beautiful conversation with us mantra scholars, and and to read the comments of people sharing their thoughts, which were very judgmental, was striking to me because I felt that judgment before from mostly male, but also female, where it makes me feel like I am not allowed to be myself or dress the way I dress or move in a certain way because it might be perceived as too sensual or inappropriate.
Right.
And I just wanted to have a conversation with you about this because you are sharing knowledge and information about the Vedas, about something spiritual, and people start going different directions and going to the superficial. And and I just wanted to have your perspective from receiving these comments and how we can elaborate more on more experience that we've had on this particular subject.
Yes. Michaela, thank you so much. And it's a pleasure that I am actually talking to another powerful medicine woman. You know, when you contacted me for the mantras, that was the stage where I was only focusing on mantra dhani as an offering. And but I'm not only about that. I have a healing. I have my experiences, which have crossed so many different aspects of existence of the cosmos, that my expression is also through the sound, it's through the movement, it's through the knowledge, wisdom, my observation, my authenticity, my vulnerability, and overall my presence. And I think that's the reason that people like yourself, when we meet, we magnetically go towards each other, because there is a search of authenticity. It's a search, less and less pretense, right? Which is something I would encapsulate as spirituality. Now, coming to the point, which is the main agenda of the YouTube comment, you very beautifully prepared the preamble for the whole background. I want to react and respond as how it happened to me. Okay. First, when I was interviewing this friend of mine, Dr. Vineet, he's also a Veda teacher. He's a doctor by profession. And we were having a very beautiful conversation. He's a friend, he's not like, he's younger to me also. I mean, he's a wonderful being. And we were discussing very important aspects of bringing this knowledge, unifying the whole world, to understand what gems are we sitting on, what a treasure house this is, etc. And I represented myself culturally, appropriately, with a sari and a normal blouse, which happens to be half sleeves. I have absolutely no idea how it could trigger a series of conversations which are so decadent in morals that it took me by surprise when I saw the comments. There were two videos. One video where I was wearing full sleeves, which were all about, oh, you look like your hairstyle is like Mohini, this, that, and they were talking about the content. The second video, which is also in sari, let me remind you, I was not wearing anything inappropriate for the situation to begin with. And then series of comments happened and I observed myself. What do I feel? And this is also how do I say, an unlimited conversation regarding this topic itself. When we are faced with a certain type of an attack, do we acknowledge the fear it brings in? Do we acknowledge the unsafety it brings in? Do we even give credence to the fact that just because you're spiritual does not mean that you have the capacity to hold the space all the time for all the trollers for an unlimited period of time? So I was vulnerable, and I remember having this conversation with my friend. Then I said, I don't know who these people are. Why are they so wild towards me? What did I do? And they're like, okay, just neglect, and this thing happens, don't worry. First thing was like, okay, maybe am I overreacting? I was like, no, I'm not overreacting. I'm getting affected. So is it not safe to say I'm getting affected? Oh, maybe this is also, as a healer, you cannot say you are getting affected.
You don't get affected because you're a healer.
You don't get affected because you're in practice, you're not supposed to get affected. And I was like, I'm not trying to question myself because they said, am I this? No. My fundamental objection was more than their comments. What they were getting to was to try and control the narrative of who I am, and in accordance with that, who a woman should be, and by punishment and reward system, trying to instill this subconscious fear that we all women together across the globe share a good girl syndrome, and I don't have that. I mean, I have worked very hard to and paid a heavy price not to have it. And I was like, my goodness, I'm somebody who is in everyday practice, very vocal, very expressive. I don't give two hoots to these men who try to do this. I can literally slay them. But I am feeling in one of my vulnerable moments to show up differently, just to avoid feeling the way I felt. And I was like, oh my God, if this can affect me like this, Look at the plight of women who have, first of all, have had very little access to education, who, having gotten educated, having gotten married, economically dependent on men. Supposedly, even we take away the economic dependency on men, they're afraid to their core because they've never voiced themselves as to how they feel. Because this punishment and reward system goes right from the core of the childhood. And by the very caretakers, unfortunately, by the very caretakers, the father and the mother. And in our conversation, we previously touched upon this point, and I want to awaken that point, is not only men are patriarchal, women too are patriarchal. And women who are patriarchal can be even more vile on one angle, because it's their anger and ire towards what they couldn't do, and they have settled for hell. Now look at this woman who is breaking the stereotypes, having no bullshit accepted, so she should be vilified. It's a sweet revenge. Mind is also a beautiful instrument, but also it's unpredictable. No amount of psychology, no amount of psychotherapy, no amount of all the kind of diagnostics people can come up with, we will still not be able to gauge how the mind works. We cannot box it. So there are multitudinal ramifications of every mind that feels a certain way. So a person can be jealous of you, envious of you, in awe of you, and not support you. And people who have a lot at stake are the people who are scared of the power dynamics.
Yes, and women can be even harsher than men towards women. And I've experienced that firsthand with friends, and even to the point where I'm questioning myself whether if I should post something, whether if I should move in a certain way, whether if I should dance or not in a certain particular setting, because I will get judged. And 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 the fact that I'm even questioning myself if I should or not do something because of that is the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you and to expand and know and have this conversation with other women that have edited themselves for others.
Yes.
How many times have we done that? And not only in this lifetime, but many lifetimes. And in a subject that we talked earlier, is the fact of all these memories that we carry, not only women, but from different lifetimes, from being judged as witches, as, I don't know, whatever words to call, because of these same things, because of looking a certain way, moving a certain way, using our sensuality or our power, which beautifully you talked about precisely in that YouTube video about how the Vedas was a representation of Shakti, of this power in women or in the female power. So to me, it's like, how can we repress that? Why should we judge it? Why should people not be able to express themselves, their Shakti, freely? If we're not hurting or causing any harm to anybody else, but totally the opposite, encouraging others to precisely express themselves freely as well.
Yes. And it's such a important sharing you just did with me, and I am so grateful that you felt comfortable, confident, and ready to share that. It's powerful. And as a, I don't know, it's not much, but I just want to say that I want to apologize on behalf of everybody who judged you ever, because we all need this. We all need this. I'm constantly asking myself, always self-reflective. It could be a practice, it could be a statement, it could be one-dimensional thinking at one point of time, which gets falsified on its own at another point. It should expand one as a person. This is the path of spirituality. And the highest form of spirituality I have found is consideration. Consideration of another person and that person's mental, emotional, spiritual makeup, just as you would do to yourself.
And that's the key. How much do we have compassion towards ourselves? And that shows in how we are with others.
Yes.
So I love that that you touched on that. And I just recently heard one of a good teachers mention that compassion is understanding or comprehending others, but also ourselves, and having the compassion to allow ourselves to express ourselves in the divine way in which we are called to is very powerful.
It is.
And when we are in this position of questioning ourselves if we should stop, is doing a disservice to ourselves and to others.
That's true. That's true. And going from the same aspect that you brought to discussion about feeling free enough to express yourself, I even thought about it. What's the context? What's the context in which we can claim, say, and be absolutely okay with who we are? Yeah, especially in the public domain, because some people will say, yeah, you're on your own, you can be so at your own house, and just do not subject us to that kind of trash, because they cannot see a person free. First, I want to discuss this aspect of the comments that were there, and then I will come to the point of what you raised. In the heart of such criticism are people who have such repressed sexuality that they are seeing the vagaries of the mind, the sexual perversions on to a person in a context which is not relevant. What I mean by that, I'll expand. Were I wearing something inciting intentionally, and my approach to the whole discussion was to bring sexual concentrated attention onto me, then the context would have been very different.
Mm-hmm.
Here, that's the reason I said the preface very clearly, that I was amazed that something as simple and as innocent. That's the reason I'm still wearing a cut sleeves. We have come to this point where we don't sexualize everything, and there is nothing wrong in sexualization either. I mean, that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, that's another topic.
It's a lot of topic. It has so many different dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens with the vilification or sexualization, which is assumed, is that it targets and it tries to strip away the honor from the person, the self-respect that a person is entitled to, irrespective of whoever they are, whatever they are doing. It tries to attack that very layer, which is not, which is not only incorrect. I would even go to the extent of saying criminal. Criminal because as people, we gather people, right? We gather people with the way we think, with the way we vibe with people. And I also saw that there are two factions ongoing. One faction is about very meager faction, which I had to ask for help from people. I was like, can you please go comment, you know, and can you please go say something back to this person, because I also want you to take up the responsibility of being a man or a responsible woman. It's not only my battle, it's also your battle. And by doing so, this one faction is continuing, they're understanding the, you know, the tectonic plates, how they are moving, how these guys are revealing their thinking. It's so disgusting. And on the other hand, these people are also trying to take the momentum by befriending each other, you know, saying, one moment.
Why did something happen? While we wait for you to come back, I just want to say that I found those comments that were so superficial and so negative towards what the topic was and what you were talking about, that it was so important. And for me, someone that doesn't have that knowledge that you were sharing was really important and valuable, and I was there for that information, and to see all those comments disregarding your knowledge on the subject and just going for the superficial, it was just telling me more about who are these people and why were they even there. And I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I
yes.
just took over
Sorry.
while you were.
No, that's a very heartfelt support, and I totally embrace that support. You know, I'm not somebody who will say, oh, I don't need it. Of course I need it. I love that when people stand up for other people. And I have always checked this, Michaela. I've always stood up for other people. It's not only for women. Whenever somebody is trying to be uh, mean in an uncold way, I don't try to shame the other person. I try to first have a conversation like, can you resolve it in a different way? Because every problem needs to have a solution. And if we are only going to aggrandize the topic of problem, we're also part of the problem. We're not trying to know what's the solution, right? So standing up actually is so much more than just standing up. It's actually curbing the crime from happening. Because you see, these people who are keyboard warriors, why I call them criminals, is they test waters. They see if there is any support. If there is no support, they go on attacking. And when their ego is hit, they take the next step. That is gathering the gall to perpetrate more heinous crimes, unfortunately. Because then their ego has become so big that they gather other people to subscribe to their toxicity of assumed superiority and try to put the woman in place because she's all alone, right? This is exactly what happened during the burning of the witches. I even like literally had flashes, and I said to my friends that time that it's not something small, because it's not just a comment which I can just ignore. No. And by ignoring, what am I being a part of? I'm being a part of perhaps some sort of assumed non-interference, which is not true. You know, if I'm being very honest, after having all these things done every single day, I'm dedicating my life, it affects you. And what's so bad about it getting affected? Because I still feel when I'm not doing something, and if somebody is saying you're doing this, you are this kind of a person, it just doesn't fit the narrative for me. So instead of hiding myself saying, oh, I have got it all under control, I wanted to expose the reality of how normal it is to be affected, and how important is it for us to stand up for ourselves, which means we are in our own power. Yes. When we are not on the erring side, when I'm actually not conducting anything with the intention of having an incitement, I also am not in uh, in favor of doing it as a solicitation, when I'm not any of that, and I'm not even encouraging that. But I don't go on vilifying those people. You know, this is acceptance. So when a person doesn't have any acceptance of you merely existing as a woman who has a thinking power of her own, who has God's grace as beauty, which is not flaunting, which is just existing. You know, just existing. And this triggers the people. It shows that they are so repressed sexually. Their perversions are not allowing them to see anything beyond the body at all.
And see it as something natural and beautiful, and not as something sinful or not worthy of speaking about the Vedas.
Exactly. That person who said you're not even fit to utter the word Veda. And as luck would have it, and I wanted to be very clear about it, what I'm saying. It's just the play, a leela of the universe, that we have the facts on our side. The fact that there were more than 67 Rishikas who contributed to Vedas, and they were not coming in stitched blouses, pleated pallus with, you know, safety pins tucked and fully covering the top of their head, so that they do not insult a person's repressed or overstimulated sexuality, because they never wore anything on top of their bust. They were free women. Even if they wore, there was something called as a stana patta. Patta means like a fabric, piece of cloth, and stana means breasts. Okay, and there you will be very surprised to know the Sri Shankaracharya, who wrote Shamala Dandaka. You know, he is considered like the hallmark of all of this very particular traditional sampradaya. Sampradaya is very traditional. What is coming as lineage and lineage. And he extols the beauty of the goddess. And there are many verses. I'll just tell you, kuchonate. Kuchonate means breasts which are so firm and like they're beautiful. Unnate means it's high. It's highly firm breasts. He's describing the goddess. He even describes her inner thighs. He describes every part of her in a divine way. So are these people going to call him profane? Because they do not have the literacy to having gone through the education to know there is something like this existing. And 1%, if they are aware of it, they would advocate it differently. Oh, it's about goddess. My question to these people are, the deities exist as energy beings, and when you connect, make a relationship with them, the whole journey is to become a devata or a devi.
Exactly.
Okay? Maybe with failed attempts of lives after lives, and maybe 30% loading, 50% loading, 60% loading, but you do imbibe the divinity the moment you surrender your energy, which is why we call, in our good part of the tradition, a woman as Devi, goddess in Sanskrit. I said it
That.
is, suppose the facts are not on our side. What if women at that point of time, Rishikas, did not dress so freely? Would it give license for us to be deprived of expressing ourselves? This is a very important point, because when we go on explaining and seeing the beauty of what was there in practice, we should not forget that there can be something very good and that was not done at that point of time, which is happening right now.
Yes.
In contemporary times. So this, according to me, is the evolution. This, according to me, is the expansion of mind. I'm only taking that as a reference because it's in our favor. Suppose it was not in our favor, also my stand of point of view wouldn't have changed even 1% you know so there is also a very beautiful verse which I always reference. It's from a poet, Kalidasa. And I think last one reference that I made was Kalidasa, not Sri Shankaracharya. Sri Shankaracharya also says in Lalita Sahasranama the same things that I mentioned. In Kalidasa is another poet who is also a saint, and he, in his book called Malavika Agnimitra, it's a it's a work of literature. And there he explains, Purana mityeva na sadhu sarvam nachapi kavyam navamityavadyam. Just because it's ancient does not make it holy. Just because something is modern does not make it unholy. The person who accepts is somebody who uses his discretionary power. And for me, this is like, even I get goosebumps when I say this, is what a beautiful, refined way of thinking, isn't it? Where we don't put labels, and we can't put labels even now as we are talking. I don't want to say blanket, anybody should be naked and behave exactly the way.
That.
Yeah,
it's not
I'm not in favor of anarchy. I'm not even in favor of saying that you can't be respectful to certain sentiments, but there are prescriptions. Tantra is all about application, right? How you apply, how you do things. One is mindful of what your body needs to go through the consecration, and you do it accordingly. The 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 problem I have is with the fact that something has to be sealed as good or bad just because I'm accessing the Vedas, and these illiterate, foolish, half-knowledged, half-baked, how do I say, notorious beings claimed to have known better, trying to control the narrative of what a woman should do, how a woman should dress, dress, and if she's wearing something, she cannot speak about something else. Who the heck are they? My question is, who the heck are you?
That was my question.
Exactly.
And who told you you own the truth, and you own who should talk about the Vedas and who shouldn't, who should share or who shouldn't, or what other people should wear when they talk about the Vedas or not. And I really like that you touched on the part of Tantra, because as we were talking earlier, you could go in those different directions with Tantra, especially right now in this time where a lot of people, especially over here, Mexico and North America, there's this belief that is not so accurate of traditional Tantra. And you touched on it earlier about how this misconception of or going in an extreme direction,
Yes.
either direction, and also that it's not the point to fall into these I don't know, just full go on and do what you will without regarding anybody else. It's not about that, but it's about really self-knowledge and putting that self-knowledge in in every action that we have, in every interaction that we have. So I can share my spirituality with you, with the way I interact with you and how I approach and how I share myself. And,
Right.
and I'm not talking just about you sharing your knowledge about mantra, but also me as a participant watching your videos and interacting with you. So that's also, the important part about this is this self-observation of each of us, and taking this part in this time, and seeing how do we feel about seeing others take a position of self-empowerment and be able to express and share their knowledge and share their experience. How does that feel in me? Does it trigger something? It's always a question about ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
So beautifully.
Everything out there is always a question about me.
Yeah.
Each and every one of us. So,
Yes.
I don't know. I just kind of went off into many directions all at once, but
No, this is fantastic because I want first you to complete your thought process so that we go into it, and then I'll explain why this is so important, because it's not, we're not obsessed with only one aspect, like down with these buggers. They're not so important, but what's important is our action. Yeah, so I want you to complete your thought process on that.
And well, what I would just add on to this is, after engaging with you in any way, whether it's commenting on a video like this, and you kindly enough responding to them, to me, it's a great opportunity for each and everybody that made a comment, an ill-fated comment, to ask themselves.
Yes. Yes.
And that would bring us full circle into this whole experience, into why. And I told you this when I reached out. It's good that it happened to you, because
Yes.
you have the power to share how you feel, which is putting yourself in a vulnerable situation, and share how you feel and be honest and be brave and share with all of us, and also have the capacity, the strength, and I know you do because you have this spiritual power in you with your life practice has given you to stand to this and be able to find the teaching in this experience and hopefully help them find their teaching from this
Yes.
experience.
So beautifully summarized, Mikhaila. I would say that the highlight of what you just mentioned, this coming back to oneself, I also asked at a higher level, beyond this whole thing that happened and the commotion that it caused. I even cried. I don't know why. There was a point of time when I'm saying something and I cried. I was like, hey, wait, it's not bad. It's not bad because it was emotional, and I allowed somatically for that to come out as tears. And I was thinking that it's not from this life. I'm not, this is not a response to these YouTube comments, because it's too minute. As they would say, we have a multiplier effect in our system. Yeah. When we are constantly subject to abuse, I'm not trying to claim victimhood on behalf of all of the women, but it's a fact. We're not sitting and crying, no, we don't know what to do in life. We have been treated so badly. Now we can't lift a finger. We are not in that state. But we cannot ignore the facts that we were abused, we are getting abused, and in most likability, we will continue to get abused. I'm not even being so naive to think that there'll be like wonderful pink tinted glasses, that the world will come together where there is no atrocity on a woman. In every era, every civilization, every incarnation across the globe, whether it's Abrahamic thinking or the traditional indigenous way of thinking, wherever there have been any form of spiritual movement, women have been the lowest denominators to have been subject to a constant extortion. Right?
Sure.
Even in the movement of the apartheid and all of this slavery, of course, men were also were treated even worse. So it's like they are worse than even animals. Something has been licensed for an equally created or more privileged sex, which is created as one race, as one human race. How can one particular form, one expression take the dominance to an extent in the delirium of which you can subjugate the other half as inferior? What happens to the balance?
And how spiritual is that?
Exactly.
How spiritual is that to think that one expression of the divine is better than the other?
Yeah, for me,
it's like, are we even talking about the same thing?
Exactly.
Are we even feeling the same expression of the divine? Because we are all the same.
Mikhaila, I have a very keen observation on this. When I say even spiritual, I think people assume, oh, you're doing practices, it's like almost like somebody cut for this job, somebody who left everything off beat, somebody who's like born with some different brain. I'm talking about not even spiritual, I'm talking about human existence. Even animals feel love for their species. Birds feel love for their species. But as a human being, there is a little bit of refinement that needs to come in.
Of course.
And when Whether you believe in God, you don't believe in God. You believe in miracles, you don't believe in miracles. Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that you deserve some sort of respect? If you do, because most of these people are riding high on this ego trip that I am special. Okay, you're special, but can you know that only you are not special? Everybody else is also special. Especially the woman who bears you is very special. When this balance is off and that they need a qualification, this I'm even pained to say this, that this actually should not even be considered as an external education. This is conscience. We have worked very hard to move away from the conscience. So all those aspects of education which have played havoc either as a praxis or as a certain way of inculcating and um, rewarding certain benefits in being special, unique, if you are behaving in a certain way. That is something that we are up against. We're not up against these people just as commentators. We are not interested in that. We're interested in the psychology behind that. And that brings us to another big topic which we should expand on in another podcast or way we do the live. Of manipulation that exists thrives on this control. And people who are complaining that, oh my God, this person manipulate. How are we part of this manipulation? Because of this. We put people on pedestal. We take away their humanness. Now, we cannot say if you were a normal person, common person, nobody give two hoots to you. Who are you? Did you eat? Did you sleep? Did you have some enough clothing on you? And suddenly you display some stuff and you're like, oh my God, he's like God. Let's do some puja for him. Okay? Now he's got the taste of being special. He doesn't want to lose it. What will he do? He will hide his humanness. He will showcase the pretense. And that is what becomes toxic because he is, in his sadistic mentality, taking a revenge in a way that, okay, I can control you because you guys are all fools. You only want this. I will show you only this. Which is why when people go into this kind of mechanism, I have been part of the cards and I can expound on it. I think I'm a specialist in it. What happens is that you blindly think that this person equals the magic of the universe. And we have been trained to think that magic of the universe means he doesn't have any human quality.
They don't poop.
Yeah, they don't poop, they don't pee, they don't have sexual desires, they don't smell, they don't stink, they don't have thoughts which are not holy.
Show any negative emotions.
Yes.
Well,
they
thinking
don't have
about
emotions.
negative emotions as a bad thing.
Yes, correct. I mean, they don't have emotions. This is being extolled so highly, and I know why it is so, because there is there are mentions of when a person transcends sex or transcends emotional duality, he is beyond this and that. So they understood this is the way the person is. They have not become that. So they started copying those and being that, pretending to be so. Because when a person really transcends that, I do believe there are beings like that, they're not interested in society. They don't live like the way we live. And you can spot them. You can spot the sparkle with which they will do, and they will go to any extent. They are like the wind, you know. So we cannot claim something we are not. It's not to steal the thunder from this phenomenon itself, because say Yukteswar Mahagiri, Mahavatar Babaji, these are the people who we can't describe as only human, you know. They have the capacity to demonstrate. But how do they demonstrate? In what elan? What do they have to gain? Nothing. But is it possible that for a person who's sitting here in front of you and he's just saying it and he feels angry, but he has to cover it up, and he will say, no, I was just showing anger for you, for your development. This is manipulation. And these people are the ones who control the narrative, because any questioning mind is a deterrent for their existence. Now, why I am connecting these two is because they felt the threat from the Rishikas, who had expounded theories, they had contributed to the Vedas, they existed in their own dynamic as whatever they existed and however beautifully they existed. They wanted to cover it up. So they denied the access to this divine knowledge till date. Very traditional schools don't teach you if you're a woman. You see, the very beauty of the Vedas, the very Shakti which flows through everybody as Medha Shakti, Vidya Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, are denied to women only. How retarded must be the thinking? I mean, there is something called as tarka, logic, right? In spirituality, we do a tarkavada to a certain extent till the time we find the core, you know. So that is the beauty of the reflection. Like, we churn ourselves, we churn our mind. Am I this? Am I that? Am I this? Am I that? If I'm this, how am I? So you go to who you are, to the root. They don't have this. They are copycats. They just get fixated on what has been said as a label. Okay, this person who is not like this is evil. This person who does not do this is a bad person, is a bad woman. She's not a good woman. And they have the physical prowess to control the narrative by, again, punishment and reward system, right? So a lot of invasions have happened, and historically, like, we cannot go and undo them. But what we can do is not to repeat the mistakes. Exactly. Right? By not repeating the mistakes is by not keeping silent. Use your voice, however inconvenient it is. Try to gather. Try to take the help when it is required. Even if you feel vulnerable to ask for it, ask. Express yourself as a human being. We are here on a very short term. We are not here forever. We are having this experience. We don't know why we are having this experience, and that's the entire conundrum we are here to know for ourselves. But in the process, what is the value of living when we are not living as a beautiful discovery by ourselves? We are too scared to know. One is the sorry,
our most authentic self.
Our most authentic self. Exactly. Because by being free, we experience the bliss, the divine bliss that spirituality talks of, hints at. That is the fragrance which everybody is entitled to equally. Even animals are entitled to it. My question to these people who have participated either as men or women is, ask yourself this very simple question. And I used this analogy before personally with you. Think of a system which you resonate with. In today's socio-economic system, we have law and order, right? Whether you're spiritual, not spiritual, you access something, you don't access something, you have to be in the law and order. That's why we're in society. So in this society, a thief and a police, two different forces, right? A thief goes and robs somebody's house. And when he's caught by the police, he says, listen, why are you catching me? This guy tempted me. He has cars. He takes vacation. He has a beautiful wife. He has family and I have none. And it tempted me because this person is showing off to me. And surprisingly, all the police and the court and the society, generally audience, they settle the score saying, yes, he has a point. So the problem is that this person tempted this person by showing off, by driving a good car, by wearing good clothes, by having a beautiful wife and having lived his life nicely. He triggered this person's insecurity. So put him in the jail or tell him he can't have these resources demonstrated. He can't have the vacation. He can't show his, fulfillment. So do we find this ridiculous?
It reminds me of this situation, how it happens in Mexico all the time, that when a woman gets raped, gets assaulted, or anything like that, they will always try to find, like, what was she wearing?
It's the same narrative
she
here.
she enticed that situation to happen. She provoked the man. It's always about that. So it's the same as your analogy, and it's always blaming the victim.
Yes, and it's very much prevalent here in India too. And these are the same set of people who have shamelessly even said it. Who have said it. I mean, people in polity, people in power, they say this. You are asking for it. See, I'm not trying to go down heavily against any other religion, but we all know radical Islam is something which is not even in agreement with Islam. Yeah, people who practice Islam. But what is their hegemony? We're going towards that with another route. I mean, Hinduism per se, we are trying to unify this because this is the most oldest ancient sacred civilization that allowed people to be. We have everyone. We have atheists, we have theists, we have different types of ways to reach and realize God, and we have equal participation, not equal, more participation. We create we think that the source of power is Shakti, which is goddess. So we revere her. So what happens? But that in your worship you worship her, but you call her you call the woman a representation of her, but you have a different standard for her when she's walking next to you, amidst you. So because if they are truly spiritual, they would look at another person as an embodiment of Devi. What is she trying to teach me? I will be in this mindset, not saying, oh, today you came like this. And for just to titillate this conversation, I use that word intentionally. Uh, uh, there is a Devi called Rati, who is the wife of Manmatha, who creates desires, and she's a Devi. So we do not look down upon anything. It's not like, I mean, they're still higher in order than human beings. In their capacity, in their frequencies and comprehension and ability to perform many things. So who are these guys and girls and women and men? What are they trying to control? And while doing so, with that conviction, what they have done is not only to expose themselves, because it's not big deal for me. Oh, they're fools. Of course they're fools. It's not like, I don't want to get into this childish way of saying, oh, you're such a fool, just a fool. No, they're not just a fool. They're criminals. They're criminals because they are creating terror in the minds of people, in the minds of women who have emancipated finally to a certain extent. I'm not saying fully, to a certain extent, from being themselves. If I have to think twice before turning up for an event, oh, am I wearing this? Oh, this will be criticized. I'm not being myself. Exactly. When I'm not carrying this thought process that, oh, that guy has to come to me, this girl has to come to me, this person has to give regard to me, I don't have any of this in my system. So am I going to gauge myself according to my consciousness or according to the consciousness of another person? So these are the conversations we need to have to bring to the fore so that people gather more courage.
Yes, I love that.
Right? And why important? Because nothing is serious enough unless it affects us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in some ways, unless we go through something, we don't respond to it as empathetic, as with empathy as we would like it to be. But this is something that happens to all women. All women vibrate with this, but only some women choose to go by compulsive habit to be on the side of men. I know these type of women who will say, I don't have a problem. If my man beats me, he will beat me. Who are you to say it? And they think themselves to be the paragon of womanhood. you know yes, we are so cultured, we are ashamed to call you as a part of our culture. We are not that type of what type of woman, who are these type of women? So again, these people also have another layer of trauma of speaking their truth. So my urge is to speak your truth, speak with your authenticity. Vulnerable self allows us the chance to explore ourselves, who we truly are. We come a step closer. And we now this one section is there, and one more dimension I wanted to ask or discuss is um, and on a higher realm, like when we meditate, we move away from our identity, to the disidentified self. I asked myself this question that, okay, I'm also responsible for creating this kind of a thing. Why and how? Because subconsciously, as an energy being, this happened for me. This happened for a reason. And which is what you also mentioned, that I'm glad it happened because it must have had a message to bring to the fore. One is that. And secondly, I kind of had an inkling, I felt, that there would be some kind of criticism. And I was afraid of being in fully my power and potency so far, because somewhere I was afraid of this sort of criticism where this rage gets explicitly exposed, and that calls out to me to own my rage, you know and I was like, oh, so this is my role that I played, to see that now is the time for me to speak my truth. I don't have to hide anymore, because this hiding again comes from this good girl syndrome. However powerful the woman you see, they all have good girl syndrome. They all have done it till the time they can't do it anymore.
Yes. And that actually touches me as well. Whenever we first talked about having this live conversation, it was like, wow, it is important for me too. And I asked myself, why am I doing this? How it resonated, everything that's happening to you in my experience. And of course it resonates because I've lived through it in different ways, but the same thing.
Yes.
And even now it's like I feel like it's a very important moment, at least for myself, to really express how I feel and not be ashamed or be in fear of having my expressing myself be judged or not liked or rejected. And I've done so much, over the years to get to this point that I also thank you for you living your experience and you speaking out, because it's also touching my experience and allowing me to speak out myself.
So
Thank you
beautiful.
very much for that.
It really makes me emotional, when I heard this. Almachi, thank you. You should.
Oh, I hope
Uh,
you're right.
yeah. Um, you as just a very higher order benefit, what this has done is, for me, I was thinking, how is it of service to anybody else beyond the fact that I'm a woman and somebody else is a woman, or somebody else has the role to play as a man for the society? Why is it so personal a topic? It's because we have these genetic memory, we have these past life memory, we have our grandmothers, we have great grandmothers, we have a whole lot of history which is passed down to us. And I think there are tears that flow which is not even ours. And it's just for repairing this sacred bond of femininity. We heal a little bit. We heal every time we take our power back. And we say that, yes, I felt victimized, but I am not going to be victimized. I see my role in it. And my role can be that, yes, I'm human. Yes, I exist without any shame, without any guilt, and I'm on my way to realize who I am. This is peaceful. But at this realm of peace, it's not that there is no violence underneath. There is so much of violence that has gone through. There is so much of tension. There is so much of cry for help, rage, anger, which is churned. Then peace comes as a result. Such a beautiful contrast of life. Even freedom, you see, like, I think it was Shaolin Master who expressed it so beautifully. He said, what you really desire comes from the opposite of it. You try to even feel the freedom of your muscles, like, you contract your fist, you
Yes.
tighten the muscles, then you feel free.
Yeah.
So we are choked for so many centuries. I have a little detail that now it's like it's the piece of saying, I can do no more of this. I have done my bit. So I think it's about the balance of the restoration that is happening at a very high level frequency for women to take. I'm not saying it in a negative, egotistical way of now women will have the reign of power. How women are, maybe our empathy comes from the fact that we have gone through so much. We say, oh, women are so forgiving in nature. Maybe we are forgiving in nature because we have seen so much. We've endured so much that we feel the pain of even like animals, plants, and everything. Why? Because we've gone through so much.
Yeah, and that's how we're able to have compassion for others who are going through something, maybe not even similar, but something difficult, because we've seen it all. We've been subjected to so much that it's easy for us to feel compassion and relate. And right now, when you touched on the vibration of that, the impact that this whole situation is having on the whole, not just on our lives because we're having this conversation, but in a vibrational level, just as
Yes.
much as reciting a mantra can have an effect on all. these conversations and opening ourselves up and being vulnerable and saying what this is not right. I'm not gonna just be quiet, and here in Mexico they call it calladita te ves más bonita, or when you're silent you look prettier.
Ah,
A popular saying here. So when we can say no, calladita no me veo más bonita, we are creating this ripple effect. So I love to have this possibility of change,
yes.
of doing it different from our previous, from our ancestors, and from all the different lifetimes. What a privilege, what an honor to be able to do it different.
Yes, yes. And I think I'm also getting closer and closer to the question that I always ask myself. What is this? What are these contrasts? How do we integrate it? And I was thinking to myself that, wow, this is such a beautiful revelation that women are assumed to be very compassionate, but maybe this comes from their experience for generations together. They have had no other choice because they know what is it as pain, you know. And how can it make us better? Why better? The question is, why should we be better? Why should we be better? Um, because we have a life and we can explore the freedom, and then we can choose where we want to be, in what vibration we want to choose to be. But the lack of this possibility as an imposition is like taking life away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's high time that we claim our life back, so we truly become peaceful rather than just talking peace words.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere I'm feeling this awakening that women, when they wake up and when they rise up together, when they heal these wounds, and not only women but also men, when they join this is the true feminism, right? This is the true feminism, that is the reason that it was meant
Yes.
to serve. And it has taken on such horrible connotations, which are perversions. So I feel that world on its own can heal. The wars will become less if women are in their femininity. The femininity that these people are demanding, that they are trying to take from us, is not the femininity. It's cold. It's it's like a monkey in a circus. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like this when I see good girl syndrome being acted out. I feel that these people are in cage. As much as they say, "Oh, we are so good, we are fine, you are," those are words. But underneath that, the rage that they have, even against women who talk in their power, is this: that they want to escape it, but they don't know how. Fearful it is to be on the other side. The criticism, the alienation,
Yeah.
the the kind of vicious, wild comments that they have to end. It's not easy. I
It's not
understand
easy.
it's not
It is
easy.
not easy.
And I'm so grateful that I have a community of people I know I can connect with, and sisters like yourself who are vibrationally in the same side, on the same side of the journey. And it's so important for us to just talk. I mean, I don't have any other particular agenda attached to this. I'm not trying to make it like a movement of I demand justice. That's very superficial. I'm not against that. Um, what I'm here for is to bring this conversation so it can give courage, it can give power to people to say it's okay to speak up. And as a favor, whenever something like this happens, take 1 minute of your time to stand up for the other person. It makes a lot of difference. I do this, I've always done it, but after this experience, I ensure I do it even more.
Mm.
So
That's
I think this is such a multitudinal topic, and I'm so happy we did this live together,
yes,
Michaela, and we
absolutely.
will do a podcast with a very dedicated structure of each of these realms that we
Mm-hmm.
explored. Underneath this, how does it affect us holistically? Why
Mm-hmm.
unfolding is important? Why, where is our femininity? Where is our healing power? Why is it important for us to claim our healing power back? If we are doing well socially, earning good amount of money, doing a job in a corporate, what are we missing out on? Come to all of this is connected to this one simple trigger of trying to control the narrative of an equal or more important species, the same subject of the same species.
It's as above, so below, and what we see in this as maybe something small, but it's exactly what is happening in the macrocosm. So that's why it's so important to take a stand, even on this small, apparently small because it's not a small matter, because it is also a representation of the whole.
Yeah.
So
And I
very
think that it's a beautiful way to curb things. You know, they say that nip it in the bud. So if we take a stance initially, we we
mm-hmm,
even defeat them in their own mentality.
mm-hmm,
We don't have to go too far to say, okay, where is the police, where is the law, where is the order. I would say law and order is the result of a failed social moral system. When the consciousness is truly blossoming, we should be trusting the consciousness of another person.
mm-hmm. Yes.
Here we can't. That's why we have judges, that's why we have somebody else to come and say, hey, please mediate for me. We've made it a
Mm-hmm.
part of our anxiety because we assume people are dead with consciousness. This is the reality.
and 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 I think that's the big part of spirituality. If the is the work of self-regulation, of self-observation, of self-controlling, not self-controlling as I'm not gonna do that because somebody's gonna judge me, but in a way of observing how is this going to be helpful or good for the other person? Is this something that's going to build this comment that I'm going to say is going to build that person up? Is this productive? Is asking those questions? It's that sort of self-regulation,
Yes,
not the censoring ourselves or
100%.
having to. Yes, we.
100%. And all of us are, I mean, I would at least consider myself, when I'm in the company of certain situations, you know, like what is the narrative dominant, you follow that. And unconsciously, you slip into it and you try to say something as mean. And then
Yes.
that is the point of choice. I have done this so many times when I have say somebody I don't like. Okay, that person has been mean to me, and somebody is criticizing. Okay, and I ignore it 3 times, 4 times, and sometime I feel invited and I join the conversation and I deride the person. I'm like, there is a part of you that said, hey, no, you could have done it differently, Mayuri. So I say, you know what?
Yes.
I have done this. Hey, listen, I said something. I think I shouldn't have said it. I take my words back and I apologize that I spoke like this behind the person's back and I don't want to participate in this. And then the other person, oh, you're trying to be holier than whatever you say. It doesn't matter. So these
Yes.
small things, like I can be erroneous, but I have the capacity to amend. This is taking
Yes.
responsibility.
Yes.
Not to shame ourselves saying, oh my God, this thought came to me. I am so bad. It came, you spoke under the influence, and this is exactly how we are impressed. upon by practices, words, behaviors of the environment. And in spirituality, we say these are egregores. These are spirits, actually. They're waiting for your subscription. You have a little bit enough intellect, they come and take you. And so this is another big topic we can.
Big topic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel so good, so fulfilled, so free, so accepted, so seen in this conversation with you. And it did feel like a transmission from the divine. It was not just a conversation. It had healing, it had power, it had everything that I desired. It brings to this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity and for the healing that happened and for what's coming next with this, because I know it'll evolve into something more, and I really appreciate all this.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you, Mikala. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you.